And so here we are, welcoming in a deeper dive into the first layer of Blueprint to the Heart, connecting world events to how world events has contributed to the constructs and the societal values and belief systems. Again, diving into the past is very important into learning how to create a new way of living because life is about patterns. Hindsight is 2020, meaning like what you're able to see things like you'll have perfect vision when you look in a retrospective way. Especially when we are just wanting to push forward and push on, it doesn't allow for contemplation and it doesn't allow, like, the past holds the answers to where a lot of our barriers and our constructs are. It holds the key to barricades around our hearts. And if we bring this to our personal world or the society at large and what's at the world stage, we can find out what was important, what held weight and value within society by taking a look at what was going on. In creating Blueprint to the Heart, a lot of it was focused around how do I break down the barriers to see that there isn't much between like being dependent on substances and being dependent on people, like all the same core wound. It is all a matter of not feeling worthy or feeling incompetent or not enough. And those core wounds play out overcompensating and being very overly egocentric. And it also plays out at the same of giving away everything and giving because you don't feel worthy enough that you would just be valuable or worthy, not giving anything. And so it is absolutely the same core thing. And so this is why going into the constructs are very important. One of the main themes that comes up is relationships. And so I had gone into this deep dive into marriages, and it's not difficult to look around at society and to see what is important in society because it's what do the most popular songs, what are they about? What type of messages are they giving? And if we look at Beyonce, like she, single ladies, put a ring in it. Now, yeah, I love me some Beyonce. So I'm not saying anything, but opening up a dialogue to a different perspective. This is a very codependent and needy thing. I don't want to say needy. It is it's not a thought process. That song, Put a Ring on It, is not a thought process of someone who is knowing their worth. It's not an energy of someone that is all encompassing and allowing their person to be. It is a matter of, well, like an ultimatum, which I am very guilty of when or if whatever in the past in order to keep relationships or to keep people in my life. And it's because I was afraid if you love me, you would stay. If you love me, you wouldn't do that. If you love me, and these are all very like the core thing again is like not trusting that and attachment to what we think we need in our life, and also not trusting that people who want to leave are showing that they don't want to stay in whatever reason. That is for a reason that, again, this other quote comes to me like when a window closes, another door opens. And it's trusting. Trusting is allowing that to be. And so let's go into how marriages started because divorce rates are continue to skyrocket. They continue to escalate. And people are wanting more in relationships. They're wanting emotional connection versus just a sexual transaction. They're wanting more depth into the relationships. Marriage is built for tax reasons. Marriage was built as a transactional agreement. It was fathers could designate husbands for their daughters that would allow for their family to be able to have like goods, would be able to have the agriculture, would be able to have the land, would be able to have what they needed in order for stability and security. And then the daughter would be off with this man and building a family of their own. It was trading your daughter for property and for agricultural goods and land. Then move that even further along. If we look at World War II, when getting married meant having a family and also being able to receive the benefits and that like the health insurance that the husband, the vet, was receiving. And so that, and also to be able to be like providing for the kids and taking care of the home while the father was out and serving the country. And also back in when World War II was happening, it again, we're working from like a primal instinct because it was about populating and surviving. The emotional aspect really wasn't developed within our consciousness, within our being yet. And these structures were in place in order for marriage to be, it's an institution. It is a contract between the state and a couple for tax and health insurance reasons. And it wasn't ever built for love until religion came in. Now, religion and government both don't create unity. They create separation and a hierarchy. So when we think of these things, it's a lot of fear based. How many people got married because they got pregnant first or because they just wanted to have sex? Think of realistically, how many people were that? I think it's a lot more than we actually tend to think or know about. And so this is as we're breaking free of these molds that don't actually serve the way that we are as people, because those constructs, they're more committed to the constructs than they are to their emotional well-being. They are more committed to not hurting other people's feelings or not breaking something than they are committed to themselves. This is what is creating stigma and judgments, and also is creating a lot of mental health issues and also a lot of like physical health issues. The more that you push and negate and suppress your true value system and belief systems, the more that your nervous system begins to overflow with the stress hormones. So now we're dependent on friends, we're dependent on relationships, we're dependent on what that looks like, we're dependent on the looks of ourselves. And that is also why it is important to start peeling this back, to go to the beginning, because it is so much to uncover and unravel. And the excavation is a deep exploration into how this all started. How did we get to where we are? Why are we at this space? And why is there so much struggle and suffering? Wanting to put yourself in someone else's shoes and seeing how you were raised and how they were raised allows for a greater understanding instead of assumption. So, this again, marriage, and then also staying together for the kids. What I'm seeing and what I am among people out and about and observing people on social media, it's like you you can't hide from yourself. forever. There comes a point where your truth starts to leak out, or just comes out in different ways. I'd always said there's that saying that the truth always has a way of coming out. And I feel that way for our true and authentic heart. If you are miserable, that's what's happening, because you're fighting against what is real for you. If you are feeling unfulfilled, it's because there's an emotional void or detachment to what that emotional fulfillment actually is for you. And everything within our society is built on material and mundane safety and stability. So, how do we actually go about excavating, questioning, and trusting the emotional aspect of things? And that's where a lot of the questioning comes in. It's important to open up a lot of conversations and to start questioning these things. Like I said, marriage in itself was built on a transactional agreement. And we were taught that there is a certain order in life of going to school, getting a job, making money, meeting a significant other, and having kids, or getting in the house. And that's not today's values. We're overpopulated, for one. Like, what, having kids isn't like you don't need to have kids to be happy. Okay. And nor do you need to be in a relationship to be happy. I really feel that is something that is perpetuated within society. We're born for connection, but first connecting to self. How can you connect to people if you haven't even really gotten to know your true self? If you've just been living on autopilot, what is it that you truly desire? What is it that you truly seek? We don't really even know until we remove everything and start to question that and look at that for ourselves. And it's within the duality of what we think we want that we're able to actually see what is important to us. Once we experience a lack of, or experience the opposite of, is when we're actually able to learn, wait, maybe that isn't working, or maybe I am happier that way. That is how duality works. And it's still the same. Learning to put yourself first instead of putting other people first starts with, and that it's not a selfish thing, right? People tend to think, oh, I serve others. But if you are self sacrificing and just give and give from a place of lack, it doesn't actually allow for you to give in a way that is helpful. It is a place of giving because you feel unworthy. And that perpetuates a destructive cycle, not a foundational cycle. That is where the change begins, is like becoming aware of that and recognizing it. Friendships in the past were built on community. It's meant to have support. However, people have become overly dependent on what friendships actually are, because we have put these expectations on friendships that if they aren't there for me in the hard times, then they're not actually my friends. They're not really my friends. But it's like, how fast were you to dismiss your own self? It's like we've put these expectations on people that aren't necessarily ours to put on people. When we are able to look at ourselves as being able to rewrite the narrative that people are bad friends if they aren't there for us, or rewrite the narrative that we aren't able to be there for ourselves. When we're able to understand that we can absolutely meet the needs of ourselves, that is how we're able to liberate ourselves. And we only are able to learn how to do that by learning by why we sought out this behavior, or why we even had this cycle happen in the first place. What was it that, and and what is it that we're actually seeking? How do those relationships actually fulfill us at this time? There is a reason why we do continue the cycle. And to figure out that reasoning will be the key to understanding how we create new choices. This is why it is important to look into the past to figure these things out. So ask yourself the questions of like, how much do I rely on other people to support me? How much do I rely on other people for emotional needs? How is it that I can be there for myself? Am I more committed to not hurting other people's feelings than I am to myself? Am I willing to sacrifice my happiness? Am I perpetuating a cycle within my family by not standing up for myself and doing something differently? Again, what we model and what we embody is the cycle that continues on to our descendants. It's not what we say, it's what we do. That is how our kids' lives are formed. I mean, these are all important questions to ask. Am I afraid of standing up for myself because I don't like confrontation, or because I don't know if what I have to say is important? Or am I afraid of losing someone, so I'm not going to say exactly what I think? These are all things that come to us and that we might just skim over because it's become so natural and such a part of society. So I think it's really important to look at those things. And it just brings up a lot of great points. And next week, we will be talking about how the world events has shaped the stigmas around mental health and dependencies, and how that is evolving. And so that is really exciting. And I am very grateful to be spending this time with you. Until next time, sending all my love.